My name's Eric, I'm 34, and I've always been the responsible one in the family, which, in our case, was just another way of saying the one who pays for everything. If there was a leaky pipe at my parents' house, I'd get the late-night call. When my brother Jason's car broke down, I was suddenly the co-signer for a loan I never agreed to. And when his daughter, my niece Emma, needed school supplies, a new tablet, or birthday presents, the family group chat would light up with gentle reminders and links to Amazon. No one asked how I was doing. No one noticed when I skipped meals to stay ahead on bills. But they sure remembered me when Wi-Fi needed paying. It's not that I minded helping. Not at first. Emma's a sweet kid, and I've always believed that if you're in a position to help, you should. But after years of being treated like a bank account with legs, the gratitude dried up and the demands just kept coming. It wasn't even subtle anymore. My mom would hand me envelopes labeled with bill names. My dad would mumble, "You know you make more than your brother, right?" Whenever anything financial came up. Jason, meanwhile, posted beach vacation photos with captions like, "Family first. Grateful for the ones who matter." I was never in those pictures. I was never invited on those trips. But the breaking point didn't come from a bill or a loan. It came from something much smaller, or maybe just something more honest. It was last month, on a Tuesday, when I called my mom to ask about Emma's birthday party. I'd seen a Facebook post from my sister-in-law about a princess-themed bash this Saturday, and thought maybe it was a surprise or just a misunderstanding. I hadn't received an invite, but I figured maybe it got lost in the mail. So I asked. My mom paused, long enough that I knew something was wrong. "Eric," she said slowly, "this one's just close family." Close family. I repeated. I thought maybe she didn't realize what she'd just said. That's when my dad took the phone, like he'd been waiting to swoop in. His voice was gruff, flat, like someone talking to customer service. "You're not really part of things anymore, Eric. You're not family. You're just a wallet. You help out, and that's appreciated, but you're always working. Always tense. You're not good with kids anyway." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. But then Jason's voice came in from the background, just loud enough to be heard. "You're too bitter to be around kids, man. Don't ruin the vibe." I felt something collapse inside me, like a string had been pulled too tight for too long and finally snapped. I sat there, holding the phone, staring at the blinking cursor on my work laptop. They hadn't even lied. They weren't embarrassed or sheepish or trying to soften the blow. They just didn't care. I was useful, not loved. Functional, not family. I ended the call quietly. No yelling. No confrontation. Just a low, "Okay," and a press of the red button. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sadness. Just stillness. That night, I made a list. It started with the obvious, the $400 monthly transfer to my parents' account for emergencies that had somehow never decreased, even when nothing was broken. Then there was the $150 I'd been sending to Jason and his wife, originally for daycare, though I had long since stopped receiving updates. I also remembered the Spotify family plan, the Netflix login, the Hulu bundle, the shared Amazon Prime, even the iCloud storage I'd been covering since 2018. They were all on autopilot, all invisible lines tying me to people who only noticed me when something stopped working. And then there was the car. The SUV Jason drove around like a status symbol, technically leased in my name, payments withdrawn directly from my account. He hadn't even offered to switch it over. Probably didn't even remember it wasn't his. When I brought it up last year, he joked, "You're good for it. You'll get a tax write-off or something, right?" I'd laughed, like a fool. So I pulled up every account, paused transfers, revoked logins, changed passwords, called the leasing company and asked a few questions, just out of curiosity, about what would happen if payments stopped or if the registered driver wasn't the primary leaseholder. Turns out, they take that sort of thing seriously, especially if you report the car as no longer in your possession, especially if it's parked somewhere it shouldn't be. I didn't plan to sabotage the party. Not at first. I just wanted my peace back. I wanted to stop being the guy who gave everything and got silence in return. But the more I sat with it, the more I thought about what they'd said, "You're not family." That wasn't just rude. That was a line in the sand. So I redrew mine. The morning of the party, I got up early, poured myself a coffee, sat in my tiny apartment where no one ever visited, and pulled up the final set of tools I needed. A few clicks, a short call, some paperwork. I didn't need to be angry to be done. I just needed to be decisive. Around noon, I got the text from Jason. Hey bro, Netflix down? I didn't reply. Then came the second message, 15 minutes later. Spotify's not working either? Mom says Hulu's gone too. Still, I said nothing. The third message was from Mom. Eric, I think there's a problem with the bank transfer this month. Can you check it? The final one, the one that actually made me smile, came around 2:17 p.m. The car won't unlock. Jason says there's some kind of message from the bank. It's Emma's party. Can you please help? I still didn't respond. Because I knew what was happening. I could picture it. The party already in full swing, balloons tied to the mailbox, folding tables in the yard, kids running around in princess dresses and foam swords. Jason pacing the driveway, clicking the car remote over and over. My dad on the phone with customer service, red in the face. My mom whispering something passive-aggressive about how Eric always does this when he's feeling dramatic. And just as the cake is being brought out, just as everyone's gathered to sing, the tow truck pulls up. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't need to be. Just a slow roll into the driveway. A man with a clipboard. A hook under the axle. The SUV being lifted inch by inch as Jason tries to argue. My name on every document. My right to revoke. And the best part? They still thought it was a mistake. They hadn't figured out that I did it all on purpose. That I'd finally drawn the line they never thought I would. That the wallet had closed. And that wasn't even the final move. The tow truck was just the beginning. I didn't get any direct calls that day, just texts. Dozens of them, one after another, as the party unraveled. But I didn't open any of them. I turned my phone face down and went for a walk around my neighborhood. It was quiet, peaceful. I hadn't realized how rare that feeling had become in my life, to exist without someone needing something from me. By the time I came back home, the silence had turned into voicemail after voicemail. My brother shouting, my mom crying, my dad demanding I explain what is going on. The words blurred together. Car, canceled, unfair, birthday ruined, what are you thinking? Not a single person asked why I'd done it. Not one. They just wanted things turned back on. So I didn't reply that night. I didn't reply the next day, either. Instead, I emailed my bank and changed the passwords on all financial accounts. I closed the shared credit card Jason had convinced me to co-sign years ago, the one he barely used, except the balance was $3,400. I froze my credit, set up alerts, began the slow, painful process of disentangling my name from theirs. Years of entanglements, debts, bills I never agreed to. It was like performing surgery on my own identity. Exhausting, but necessary. 3 days later, Jason showed up at my apartment. I didn't even know he knew where I lived. I'd moved a year ago and never gave him the address. He must have asked Mom. Or snooped. Either way, he was pounding on my door at 8:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, loud enough that my upstairs neighbor peeked through her blinds. I opened it just enough to block him with my body. You seriously gonna do this, man? He snapped, eyes bloodshot. You ruined Emma's birthday. A 7-year-old's birthday. You think that's okay? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. His face was red. His shirt was stained, probably frosting or juice, and he was gripping his phone like he wanted to throw it. She asked why Uncle Eric didn't come. He said, softer this time. Why her present wasn't there. Why the car was gone. You couldn't just say something? I folded my arms. I did. I asked why I wasn't invited. And Dad said I wasn't family. You backed him up. Jason rolled his eyes. It was a joke. No, it wasn't. He looked away. You know what? I said, voice tightening. I didn't cancel anything out of spite. I just stopped funding a family that doesn't want me in it. If you don't think I belong at the party, why should I pay for the balloons? That's not how family works, he muttered. You're right, I said. It isn't. But it is how bills work. And those are in my name. Jason didn't have a reply for that. Just stood there, seething. You should go, I said quietly. Before you say something else you'll regret. He opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and stomped down the stairs. For a moment, I just stood there in the doorway, watching him disappear into the street. It should have felt triumphant, victorious. But instead, I just felt tired. Not regretful, just weary. Like I'd been holding up the ceiling for so long that, even after stepping out from under it, I could still feel the weight in my bones. That weekend, I got a long email from my mom. No apology, no ownership, just guilt. She said she was disappointed in how I'd handled things. That Emma cried when she realized I wasn't coming. That money isn't everything. And I should have remembered what really matters. And at the end of the message, the part that really stuck with me, she wrote, "We raised you better than this, Eric. Family is forever, even when they disappoint you." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Family is forever, even when they disappoint you. I finally replied with one sentence. "You didn't raise me. You used me." Then I blocked her email. But it wasn't over yet, because I still had one final move. It had to do with the house. See, 5 years ago, when my parents were facing foreclosure, I stepped in. Quietly. Anonymously. They told everyone Jason negotiated a better deal with the bank. But the truth was, I bought the deed under a trust. They've been living there ever since. No rent, just occasional repairs I've covered without thanks. To them, it's their home. But legally, it's mine. I'd never intended to hold it over them. But when someone tells you you're not family, they shouldn't expect to keep living in the family home. So I called my lawyer. Asked a few questions. Had some papers drawn up. I haven't filed them yet, but they're in a folder on my desk. Labeled clearly. Eviction, 30 days notice. Because maybe it's time they understood what happens when the wallet stops playing nice. I didn't sleep much the night the papers were printed. Not because I doubted what I was doing. I didn't. I just couldn't stop thinking. About everything. About the Christmases where I gave them extra cash, and they told people Jason had worked overtime. About the hospital bill I paid when Dad had his knee surgery, the one they claimed insurance covered. About the time I skipped my own vacation to send Emma to summer camp. And about how none of it, not one cent, not one gesture, had earned me a seat at her birthday table. By morning, the fog in my mind had cleared. Not into calm, but clarity. Cold, precise, and overdue. I made a copy of the eviction notice and placed it in a plain white envelope. No return address. No flourish. Just their names printed neatly on the front. David and Margaret Langston. I drove across town just before noon. The neighborhood hadn't changed much since I was a teenager. Same creaky mailboxes. Same overgrown hedges. Same wind chimes Mom insisted weren't tacky, even though they clanged like rusted pipes. I parked across the street. Watched for a few minutes. No car in the driveway. Good. It felt strange walking up the steps I once helped sand and repaint during high school. I knew exactly where the third board creaked. I knew which brick was chipped. I knew how the front door stuck in the humidity. And yet the house felt foreign. Not because it had changed. Because I had. I slipped the envelope into the screen door. Taped it just above the handle, where it couldn't be missed. The wind tugged at the edges as I turned to go. I didn't linger. I didn't look back. But I knew the moment they found it. Because 3 hours later, my phone rang, blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the text from my mom. Just 5 words. "Eric, you wouldn't. Please call." Then Jason, of course. "Are you insane?" Mom's crying. Dad's freaking out. "You can't actually go through with this." No apologies. No questions. Just panic. The next message was longer. A wall of text from my dad, trying to sound composed, but you could feel the cracks. "Son, I think we need to have a serious talk. I know things have been tense lately, but evicting your own parents? That's not the man we raised. That's not you." I stared at that line for a while. That's not you. Funny. They never seemed to know who I was when they were using me. By the end of the day, I'd gotten 15 messages. A few voicemails. Even a Facebook comment on a photo I posted 2 weeks ago of a salad. "This isn't how families fix things," Mom wrote. "You're better than this." But the truth was, I wasn't fixing anything anymore. I was removing rot. I was ending the cycle. The next morning, the phone call stopped, and the email started. Subject lines like, "Legal misunderstanding, please reconsider, urgent, talk today?" I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the notice to my lawyer and told him to proceed, but give them the full 30 days. No rush. No cruelty. Just consequences. A week passed. Then another. And slowly, the silence grew louder. No more texts from Jason. No more guilt from Mom. Nothing but the occasional automated email from a streaming service alerting me of a failed login attempt. One from Hulu. One from HBO Max. Then Prime. I didn't even realize they used the Kindle account, but apparently, Jason's daughter had a school reading app tied to it. Still, I said nothing. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was just done playing the part they assigned me. Then, one Sunday evening, exactly 2 weeks after the envelope hit the door, I got a knock. Not a call. Not a text. An actual knock. When I looked through the peephole, it wasn't Jason. It wasn't Mom or Dad. It was Emma, holding a homemade card. Behind her, Jason stood silently, hands in his pockets, eyes downcast. He looked older somehow, smaller, like the weight of his choices had finally started to sink in. "Uncle Eric," Emma said softly when I opened the door. "I made this for you." I knelt down, gently taking the card. It was pink, with glitter and stars, and written in her 7-year-old handwriting. "I'm sorry they were mean. I love you anyway." That broke something in me I didn't know was still holding on. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I looked up at Jason. He didn't speak right away, just nodded toward the hallway. "Can we talk?" he asked. Not demanding, not smirking, just quiet. And I stepped back and opened the door. I let them in. Emma sat quietly on the couch, swinging her legs, the card still clutched in my hand like it had weight far beyond the glitter and glue. Jason stood awkwardly near the entryway, not quite sure what to do with himself. He glanced around like he was looking for something to criticize, like he used to when we were kids, the way he'd point out a cracked tile or a dusty shelf, always trying to assert that smug big brother energy. But he didn't find anything this time. My apartment was clean, sparse. "Mine. You want something to drink?" I asked, just to break the silence. Jason shook his head. "No, thanks." We stood there in silence for another beat. Then I motioned toward the kitchen table. "Sit." He did, hesitant, shoulders hunched, hands clasped together like he was afraid I'd start throwing things. I didn't. I sat across from him, waited, let him make the first move for once. "I didn't know," he started, eyes on the table. "I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't think it was that serious." I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't think what was serious?" He swallowed. "The way we treated you." That made me laugh. Quiet, bitter, short. He winced. "Okay, I deserved that." "You did." Jason looked toward Emma, who was now humming softly to herself, flipping through a book she'd brought. "She asked why she doesn't get to see you anymore." That's when it hit me. Like, actually hit me. I started thinking about everything. The money, the house, the car. I realized I couldn't name a single thing we've done for you. Not even one. He looked up. "I'm not going to pretend I wasn't a fool. I was. I thought I was entitled to all of it because we were family. Because you had more. Because you never complained." I tilted my head. "You mean, because I made better choices?" That landed. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, exactly." For a long moment, we just sat there. The weight of years between us hanging in the air like dust in sunlight. Then he cleared his throat. "Dad's angry. Mom's confused. She keeps saying you're going through a phase." "Of course she does. But me?" Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "I think we broke something. And I'm not sure we can fix it." I tapped the card gently. "You didn't break it. You hollowed it out. Over time. It's not like there was one moment. It was every moment." "I know," he said. I'm here to say I'm sorry. And I mean it. I don't expect anything from you. I'm not asking for the car or the money or for you to cancel the eviction. I just wanted to say it." That caught me off guard. He wasn't groveling. He wasn't negotiating. He was just apologizing. And for once, it didn't feel performative. It felt like he actually meant it. "Why now?" I asked. "What changed?" He looked over at Emma again. "She asked me why you're not in our pictures anymore. I told her we forgot to invite you. And she said, 'Then forget the cake.' She wouldn't eat it. Told everyone it wasn't a real party without Uncle Eric. And that night, I looked at her and realized, I don't want her to grow up thinking love is one-sided. That people are just there to be used. I don't want her to be me." That hit me harder than I expected. Because beneath the bitterness, beneath the betrayal, that was the core wound. I loved my niece. Genuinely. And they'd used that love like a leash. Tugged when they needed something. Let it go slack when they didn't. "I'm not going to lie to her anymore," Jason added. "I told her everything. That we took advantage of you. That it wasn't okay. That I was sorry. And she told me she wanted to come say it, too." That's when Emma looked up and walked over, her little hands clasped together. "I miss you," she said quietly. My voice caught in my throat. I swallowed hard. "I miss you too, kiddo." She stepped forward and hugged me around the waist. Not performative. Not prompted. Just honest. It undid something in me I hadn't realized was knotted tight. I hugged her back. When she let go, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small plastic crown. Pink and sparkly and slightly bent. "I saved this for you," she said. I had to. I took it and placed it gently on the table like it was made of glass. "Thank you." Jason stood up. "We'll go now?" I didn't come to beg. I just wanted to make sure you knew. He started toward the door, then paused. If you ever do want to talk again, I'm here. And if you don't, I get it. Either way, thank you for everything. Even when we didn't deserve it. I nodded. They left. The door clicked shut, and I sat there at the table for a long time, staring at the card and the crooked plastic crown. Everything inside me was tangled. Anger, relief, grief, guilt, clarity. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a Hallmark ending. But it was real. A week passed. Then two. I didn't reach out. But I didn't proceed with the eviction either. I didn't cancel the notice. I just let it sit. Like a loaded chamber, I chose not to fire. Then, one morning, I got an email from my dad. Short. No guilt. No excuses. Your mother and I were wrong. We know it now. I'm not asking you to fix what we broke. Just wanted you to know we're trying to. If you ever want to talk, doors open. That surprised me more than anything else. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I visited. It wasn't a big moment. There was no dramatic music, no tearful embrace. Mom offered me tea. Dad stayed quiet. Emma ran into my arms like nothing had ever happened. And for the first time in a very long time, they didn't ask me for anything. They just sat with me, listened, owned it. And maybe that was the real victory. Not the silence, not the revoked logins, or the repo truck, or the paperwork, but the space I made for myself, the boundary I enforced, and the quiet realization, in them, in me, that love is not the same thing as obligation. It took losing everything they used to control me to finally understand who I was. And it took losing me for them to realize what they had. So no, I didn't turn the power back on. I didn't reinstate the bank transfers. I didn't re-sign the lease or pay off another dime. But I did something more powerful. I took my seat back at the table, not because they gave it to me, because I chose it. And this time, they knew not to touch the crown. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.